Okay, Atlantis, mother of empires, just to show you the Asian and Negro connection. It is possible that the true West African or Sudanese Negro is a remnant of one of such previous cycles of Guadalalanders. For instance, this just means like Pangea, if you will. For instance, the origin of the Negro race is admittedly lost in antiquity. Sir Harry Johnson in Living Races of Mankind says the Negro species originated probably in India in an extremely remote period.
So here's the same word. And in fact, there seems to be a very strong connection between ancient Egypt and these Kam people. So if you go to the museum of the Kam in Da Nang, the Kam were Hindus and Buddhists, apparently. Here's like a kind of Shiva guy. Notice the big earlobes on him. Buddha is always...
Notice the big nose and the big lips. But he's going to tell the truth, watch.
Is depicted as having these very long earlobes and things like that. Here's another Kam statue, big earlobes on him. He's also got the kind of kinky hair and
kinky, nappy, listen.
And a broad nose and lips. Many of the Kam look very African, actually, like as they're like Negroes, basically.
How hard it was for him to get that out. African Negroes.
Kinky hair and a broad nose and lips. Many of the Kam look very African, actually, like as they're like Negroes, basically. Here's another unusual Kam statue. This would be of Shiva, one of the Hindu Trinity, big earlobes. Notice the third eye on his forehead there. So these are these Kam guys. He's also wearing his head like the sadhus do in India. The sadhus wear their hair in a really long, they grow their hair very long. Yeah, like dreadlocks, but then they tie it up in a bun, yeah, on top of their head and knot their hair, their long hair up here. And that's also kind of what you have at Easter Island. They all have these top knot things. So when you see that kind of thing, so the Kam are wearing their hair like this too.
See, dreadlocks, like dreadlocks. Well, kind of dreadlocks.
This is another Kam statue from Vietnam, which looks very Mayan. In fact, if you take this photo to southern Mexico or Guatemala and show it to somebody, they would probably tell you, "Oh yeah, that's a Mayan statue. You know, where is it? Oh, it's in Vietnam." So here's another Kam guy.
Peep the fez he got on. Okay. Yeah, see the fez. All right.
He's got his head. He looks like the Kontiki guy. He's got a beard and a mustache. He's got his meditation beads there he's working with. Here's another Kam statue of probably Parvati, the consort of Shiva. Big long earlobes and stuff there too. And you go to Cambodia and Angkor Wat. This is Angkor Wat again, and this would be Buddha with the big earlobes carved. And
do modern Chinese people have those big lips and big noses like that? Okay.
They've got the...
Excuse me, Asian. No disrespect. Yeah, my bad. An extremely remote period. Okay. So you see, likewise, the origin of the Bushmen is lost in a very dim past. They have no idea how old we are. Just real quick, the Aborigines of Tasmania now extinct were Oceanic Negroes. Remember Oceanic? I was reading that in the other book. Because this book is pretty old, too. I think this book is like, came out in like 1930 or something. 39. Okay. This book is fairly old, too. The older books give you more truth. Dr. A.W. Kane says that the first peoples recorded as occupying India were black people. Here we have seen that the first people to occupy Africa, India, Tasmania, and Australia were Negroes. We learned that the tradition of India and other Asiatic countries to build stories of a former continent which connected India with Africa, Australia, and possibly South America. We have also seen that false scattered African tribes possess traditions which tell identical stories of just such a southern continent, which they refer to as the lost homeland. Whether or not this refers to the lost continent of Lemuria or Guantanamo land, geology apparently establishes the fact that at one time this is such a mighty land bridge. You see. Peace, what's up, what it is? Alright, so we're gonna jump around a few places. Start right here just to get your mind working on what the general point is of this video. So start here with something called OOP arts. OOP arts, out of place artifacts, said to suggest high-tech prehistoric civilization existed. Right? According to the conventional view of history, now you gotta pay attention. Humans have only walked the earth in our present form for some 200,000 years. Advanced civilization appeared several thousand years ago, but much of the mechanical ingenuity we know in modern times began to develop only around the Industrial Revolution a couple hundred years ago. Listen to this. This sums up our belief of history that they've taught us. They believe that man has only been walking the earth in this form for 200,000 years, right? And never invented anything of note until roughly 200 years ago. A couple hundred years ago, the Industrial Revolution. Before that, people were essentially idiots. Even though these are the same people that built pyramids and artifacts and blah, 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 blah. It still was a bunch of idiots. And today, right now, is the height of civilization. This is what this small paragraph is saying in a nutshell. And this is what we essentially believe. And this is why we as so-called black folks don't believe in ourselves, because inherently we know we older than everybody else. So if we didn't do nothing in history until everybody else came, then essentially we're nothing. And that's apparently what we think about ourselves. You can tell by just the way we act and how we treat ourselves. So that's what my videos have always been about. So let me keep going. OOP arts, out of place artifacts, is a term applied to dozens of prehistoric objects found in various places around the world that seem to show a level of technological advancement incongruent with the times which they were made. Many scientists attempt to explain them using natural phenomena. Others say such explanations ignore the mounting evidence that prehistoric civilizations possessed advanced technological knowledge that was lost throughout ages, only to be redeveloped in modern times. I don't read out loud often. We will look at various OOP arts here, ranging in proportion in purported origins from millions of years ago to merely hundreds of years ago, but all said to show advancement well ahead of their time. We do not claim that any of these OOP arts were definite evidence of advanced prehistoric civilization, but rather attempt to provide a brief glimpse at what's known or hypothesized about these artifacts. This is not a comprehensive list at all of OOP arts, but a substantial sampling. Meaning there's a bunch more of this. This is not a comprehensive list. It's only 17 of them. The 2,000-year-old batteries, I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all have heard of that. Ancient Egyptian light bulbs, okay. The Great Wall of Texas, some in the advertisement, whatever that one. And this is, I actually know what this is. I don't live too far from this. 1.8 billion old nuclear reactor. Okay, it's evident. I'm not gonna read all these. Obviously, I'll be reading for a while. This video already gonna be kind of lengthy. There's one on here I wanted to show you though. These spheres. I first heard this from Dr. Eileen. Shout out, peace, Islam more. Okay, and I'm gonna have to reload this page. Drill bit and coal. They got it on here. I know I've seen it. Here we go. 2.8-year-old spheres. These spheres of fine grooves around them found in the mines of South Africa have been said to be some to be naturally formed masses of mineral matter. Others have said they were precisely shaped by prehistoric human hands.
In South Africa, one of the great mysteries that was found years ago was an entire field of spheres that are made of a metal that is not native to our planet as we know it today. It's been combined, an alloy, in a way that does not happen naturally. But the thing is, the spheres are all machined. They have machined grooves around them. Some of them are very large. They're feet in diameter. Some of them are only a few centimeters or inches in diameter. You're seeing some on the screen right now. But here's the thing. These mysterious spheres in South Africa are now being dated. Look at this, 570 million years before present. Now, I just want to give you some context. What you're seeing is a geologic map of time. You're seeing the most recent at the top, and the oldest strata, again, is at the bottom. And we've talked about the Permian, the Ordovician periods, the Pleistocene period near the top. These spheres are coming from a time at the bottom of the geologic timetable before life began. At this time, if there was life, it was only primitive, single cell, maybe amoebas, very primitive biological life. It's called Precambrian period. So this is the mystery. What are these technologically advanced machined spheres doing in South Africa at a time when not only are there no humans, but the most advanced forms of life known at that time were single cells? Now you're getting a sense of what out-of-place artifacts are all about. There are so many out-of-place artifacts. Scientists now, again, they put them into a separate pile and they said, you know, these don't fit the traditional story. We're going to have to come back and look at these later. Well, later is now, because there are so many anomalies. They're saying there must be another story, or at the very least, the story that we've embraced is incomplete. Let me be really clear about this. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying there's a good chance that it's incomplete. We have only gleaned a small part of our true history. So the question is, how far back do these out-of-place artifacts go?
The globes, which have fibrous, I know I messed that up, structure on the inside with a shell around it, are very hard and cannot be scratched even by steel, says that guy, creator of the museum of that place in South Africa. Accordingly to Michael Creel, and this was what Dr. Alim was speaking on specifically, was Michael Cremore's book, Forbidden Archaeology, right here, where they got this in there. Said the spheres are about 2.8 billion years old because they were found in coal, and they circular and they got like lines on them. It's like no way it could possibly have been naturally made. It's just ridiculous. So you see 17. So just going to show you that history is not, you know what I mean, what they told you.
I live in northern New Mexico, and it was in New Mexico in 1987 that a researcher found what you're seeing on the screen right now, and it is just what it looks like. It is a human footprint. And it's not just a piece of a human footprint. This is a fully formed, very well-developed human footprint. The problem is, this footprint is in Permian strata, a time from the Permian period that's about 290 million years before present. Again, just for reference, humans first appeared only 200,000 years ago. So what is a fully formed human footprint doing in strata that's 290 million years old? In the Ordovician period, a group of scientists discovered what you're seeing right now, and it's just what it looks like. This is an iron hammer on a wooden shaft. It was found in a town in Texas. It's called London, Texas. It was found in 1934. And this cannot be hoaxed. The shaft is actually embedded into the strata, and the wood in the shaft has been there so long it's actually becoming carbonized into coal. So the shaft of this hammer is turning into coal. How did this hammer get into 400 million year old strata? But it doesn't stop there.
But we should know this by now, right? So one of the main focuses of this video is going to be this book. Found this book I don't remember when I first found it, but I just had to re-download it because I didn't have it when I needed it. So anyway, Paradise Found, the cradle of the human race at the North Pole. All right. Now this book is used by flat earthers to try to prove a point, even though this author doesn't believe or didn't believe that the Earth is flat. As you can see, it was written in 1885. Okay, so that's not where the author's coming from in this book, but he's showing how the belief of the author is that the paradise was the Garden of Eden, right? Was at the North Pole, okay, and that all civilizations spread it out from the North Pole into all of their places on the map, right? So one thing I want to go to first, because I know how y'all are. I'm gonna say he reading all this crazy stuff that can't be verified, blah 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 blah. I already know y'all think. So let's go on the back of this book. He's using Columbus. All right. Now Columbus, wouldn't hold no authority over me in my mind, but considering that we today will call ourselves Black Indians before we would say we Moors, right? And we only Indians because Columbus said so. Then he holds some weight with y'all, right? So I want to show you I'm trying to get to the page. It's right around here. His premise and his beliefs of this book, right? Paradise being at the North Pole, blah blah blah. Now he gonna show through this whole book, and I'm not gonna show you the Earth of Columbus, not a true sphere, because I ain't got time to read the whole goddamn book to you. But through the whole book, he's showing how all ancient mythologies are all congruent with this one mythology of the Earth being essentially flat and a mound being in the middle. Okay, we in this book, Mythologies. You see real quick, and you see his page 18. So they open up with Egypt, so that should tell you something. Sacred hills, the primeval mound was a common feature in creation myths as a place where the sun first rose, where the first divine being was created. The mound fulfilled a vital, I can't read from the phone, if passive function. Its exact location was never certain, but each major religion cite a phantasmal, I think that's right, of it built within the temple boundaries. Pyramids have been interpreted as replicating the shape of the primeval mound. Okay, so pyramids were built in replica of the great primeval. I can't never say the word right? Which in Egyptian mythology was Ptah, right? Ptah was linked to the sacred hill, the sacred mound, the mountain, the moor. And everybody spreading out from there. And that's pretty much what the Bible says as well. And I'm gonna show you where he's showing that in something else, gonna connect to something else, blah blah blah. Now, this is from Columbus in one of his diaries or some shit, I don't know. The following authentic account views entertained by Columbus respecting the figure of the earth will be welcomed by many readers. All right, so in this, without reading it all to you, it's only like 3 pages, but Columbus is basically saying he don't believe the earth is round like that because of his travels and how he, where he was going and how the temperatures changed, blah, 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 blah. And he was saying that the people before them believed it was a globe, talking about Ptolemy and other philosophers who have written up on the globe thought that it was spherical, believing this because the Western Hemisphere was round as well as that in which they themselves dwelt, the center of which was in the island of Aran, which is under the equatorial line. I don't know how to do that. Between the Arabian Gulf and the Gulf of Persia. And the circle passes over Cape St. Vincent in Portugal, westward and eastward by Kangara and the Surs, okay, in which hemisphere I make no difficulty as to its being a perfect sphere as they describe. But this western half of the world I maintain is like half of a round pear. having a raised projection for a stalk, as I have already described, like a woman's nipple on a round ball. St. Columbus was a freak. Ptolemy and others have written on the globe, had no information respecting this part of the world. Now, it's Columbus talking. All right, so he's saying they didn't know this shit. I've traveled this. I've seen it. All right, they only established their own hemisphere, which, as I have already said, is half of a perfect sphere. And now that your highness has commissioned me to make this voyage of discovery, the truths which I have stated evidently prove because of the voyage was. Okay, here we go. This is the part I want. Because in the voyage, when I was off the island of Hagar, which is Agarin, west coast of Africa, and its vicinity, which is 20 degrees north of the equinoctial line, I found people black and the land very much burnt. Now, we know this about Africa. Now, watch. When after that, I went to Cape Verde Islands, I found that people were very much darker still. And more southward we went, the more they approached extreme blackness. So that when I reached the parallel of Sierra Leone, where as the night came on, the North Star rose 5 degrees, the people were excessively black. And as I sailed westward, the heat became extreme. But after I passed the meridian or line, which I have already described, which is the north and south line, right, I found the climate became gradually more temperate, so that when I reached the island of Trinidad, y'all know Trinidad is South America, off South America, Central America, where the North Star rose 5 degrees at night came on. There was the land of Garcia, right? I found the temperature was exceedingly mild. The fields and foliage likewise was remarkably fresh and green, as beautiful as the gardens of Valencia in April. The people were very graceful in form, less dark than those I had seen in the Indies, and where their hair long and smooth, and they were more shrewd, intelligent, and courageous. Their timing was extraordinarily fortunate, for in 1492 Granada had fallen, and the Catholic monarchs wished to extend the pursuit of the Moors overseas. Columbus planned to sail west-about, for China would fall on receptive ears if he could persuade Ferdinand and Isabella that his plan was realistic and that it offered a chance for reaching the Spice Islands before the Portuguese. Moors overseas. After they got kicked out of Spain, Columbus followed them home. Here. Get it? See, less dark. So, okay, like, we got to drop that whole, we light-skinned because we mix with white people ideology. We always been less dark than our brethren over in Africa, simply because of our placement on the so-called globe. Okay, the sun doesn't shine as hard over here directly on people like it does in Africa. We don't get as dark. It ain't even that hard to understand.